Stacey said, quote, "When we said safer borders, I thought he was thinking, let's stop the drugs from coming into the country. I didn't know he was going to start raiding places." She said she didn't believe he would actually follow through on some of the more hardline policies he touted during the campaign. 49-year-old Omaha, Nebraska resident said, quote, "Now I'm like, dang, why didn't I just pick Kamala?" Emily Anderson from Duluth, Minnesota, categorizes her vote for Trump this year as the, quote, "biggest mistake of my life." She is horrified by Trump's focus on deportations and use of Guantanamo Bay to hold migrants. Anderson said, quote, "I feel so stupid, guilty, regretful. Embarrassed is a huge one. I am absolutely embarrassed that I voted for Trump."
As we continue to hear horror stories and reports about Trump supporters regretting their votes with his first month back in office now behind him, Republican officials are trying to have their cake and eat it too.
Lisa Murkowski of Alaska asking for exemptions to Trump's cuts and actions, specifically for Indian tribes in Alaska. Republican Senator Chuck Grassley of Iowa asking for an exemption for Iowa farmers to the tariffs on Canada. Republican Florida Congresswoman Maria Elvira Salazar asking for an exemption to the indiscriminate deportation policies. Republican Senator Katie Britt asking for an exemption on the massive cuts to scientific and medical research, saying, you couldn't possibly mean Alabama for those cuts, could you? Not Alabama. You want these cuts elsewhere, right? Republican Senator Susan Collins of Maine saying the same thing, saying surely those cuts don't apply to the universities and labs in Maine. She said if it applies to the ones in Maine, that would be, quote, devastating.
While it's admittedly satisfying, to some degree, to see these people finally come to terms with reality and recognize what we've been warning them about for years now, instead of directing your anger at the people who were duped by Trump and the Republicans and blaming them solely for putting him back in power, focus that anger and energy on the systems in place that encourage someone like Trump to seize power like he's been doing so far.
And he's cutting out all of this
Sean.
waste. Well, why would you hate somebody like that?
It's so
I'm
basic.
grateful.
You know what? It's very basic. Let's think about this. In our administration, we have a tremendous amount of billionaires who are successful businessmen. And I could name them all, but we know who they are, who have taken a leave, sold their companies, walked away from their lives to sacrifice to help America be great again. There are many. Now, Elon's become a target for one very simple reason, because he is cutting the funding to these politicians who have put their bureaucratic, personal financial gain and interest above the American people.
Take Trump's legal counselor, Alina Habba, openly bragging about how many billionaires are deeply involved with his second administration, for example. If we had a proper system of checks and balances in place and you physically couldn't profit from federal contracts, insider trading, and other forms of corruption, billionaires, multinational corporations, and grifters would have drastically fewer incentives and methods to siphon away wealth from the American public into their own pockets.
Donald Trump, as we saw, was inaugurated several weeks ago. And who you saw behind him mattered. The people who stood behind Donald Trump at his inauguration are some of the people that are playing a major role in upholding and supporting what is going on. That is important to know because we need to know who are the folks that are responsible. And as we all saw, when Donald Trump was sworn in, he had several billionaires standing behind him. He had, of course, Elon Musk. He had Jeff Bezos. He had Mark Zuckerberg. You also had the CEOs of major corporations like TikTok and Apple, etc. These are people who are taking part in their own way, the same way that I'm telling you all to kind of divide and conquer. They are also dividing and conquer. They're acting very strategically and they are each playing their own role, right? So the way that they're playing their own role, we can each be playing our own role, all right? And right now, what is happening is that all of these tax cuts that billionaires and millionaires have been just getting high off the hog on over the last couple of years are now about to run dry if they do not reauthorize them, if they do not extend them, and not only if they do not extend them, but ideally they want to add to them. Massive tax cuts for some of the largest corporations that exist in America and in the world. And so they have a massive thing at stake. So right now, their task is to extend these tax cuts. And what Elon Musk wants is for these tax cuts to not only be extended, but to apply to him in a larger way than ever before so that he can amass even more money than ever before.
The Republican Party is so effective in convincing their base to vote against their economic interests and shield billionaires and corporations from criticism over moves like this because they have done a great job letting them know that marginalized communities will not receive any types of benefits or a leg up in the system. So as long as they know that black people, LGBTQ plus community, women, immigrants, they're not receiving any type of rewards or something that's going to boost their economic situation, they're fine with it. They even though it's going to harm them as well. But that racism, that misogyny is so powerful, right, in their hearts that it leads them to do things like this where they're going to be worse off.
I don't know why Republican members even show up to this committee or to Congress when it's clear who's really in charge of the federal government right now, and that's Elon Musk. And at the beginning of this hearing, when we asked our Republican colleagues if we could bring Mr. Musk to this committee, Republicans ran cover for him. They want him hiding in the White House tweeting, and they voted unanimously that they didn't want to hear from Elon Musk. Supposedly, this committee is supposed to be about rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse. And I agree. So let's talk about waste, fraud, and abuse. The biggest fraud in U.S. government right now is Elon Musk pretending to care about efficiency when what he cares about is taking your taxpayer dollars, taking your Medicare, taking your Medicaid, taking your Social Security, and enriching himself and his billionaire buddies with it. The biggest abuse in the U.S. government right now is Elon Musk getting $154 billion richer since the election just a few months ago, while consolidating unprecedented power over your money and your government. Mr. Musk invested $227 million in Trump's election and is making billions off of it. That's waste. That's fraud. That's abuse. And speaking of waste, another waste is my House Republican colleagues showing up because they waste their time. They won't speak out about any of these abuses against working people and taxpayers. This is the Oversight Committee, and there are 17 independent inspectors general. They are watchdogs. They are the oversight arm of the federal government. And Trump and Musk illegally fired 17 of them, including a watchdog that was investigating one of Musk's companies. And what I've heard from House Republicans is either silence or defending that kind of behavior. You guys know that it's embarrassing and it's wrong, and that's why you voted to not have Musk here before us. Elon Musk is not doing anything to make government more efficient for working people. He's using his position to more efficiently raid your taxpayer dollars to enrich himself and his friends. I'm told that this hearing is about right-sizing government. So I propose that we start right-sizing our federal government by firing the most dangerous man in it, and that's Elon Musk. To protect our taxpayers, we should fire Elon Musk. To keep American Social Security numbers private, fire Elon Musk. To protect Medicare and Medicaid, fire Elon Musk. To save schools and our jobs, fire Elon Musk. And to protect the idea that American people have a government for the people and by the people, and not for the ultra-rich and by the ultra-rich, we must fire Elon Musk.
Republican and Democratic officials are motivated to work on behalf of their donors instead of the people, right? Because they're like, hey, I need to make sure I satisfy and please the people who are giving me the most money. Who has the most money? These corporations, right? And you can have good corporations, but it gets really gray. It gets really hairy because there are so many corrupt corporations and different companies that are filled with billionaires running them, where they wield way too much control, way too much power. And so the people don't have that type of capital. They don't have that type of money. So it's always going to be about, oh, let me satisfy my biggest donor, even if it's not in the best interest. Because some of these, like a lot of these corporations, do not care about people. So it's always going to be about, oh, let me satisfy my corporation, the corporation that's donating all this money. Let me see what I can do to keep getting that money into our party, into the campaign. That really puts all of us on a dangerous path, right? Because like you can be bought. Simple as that. You're not looking out for the common man or woman. You're not. You're just looking out for the biggest check and how to keep receiving that check from these corporations, from these billionaires, and so on and so forth. Rebel HQ, I'm Chris Williamson. We'll see you next time.